Granniopteryx, granniopteryx. She knows the truth, she's linking every link.
Hello, I'm going to be going through Keir Starmer's speech. I'm not going to start straight away because as a bit of a palate cleanser, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the fact that I was out riding this morning, which is why I'm making this video at, I don't know what time, at 6:30 at night, which probably means I won't be finished dealing with it till about 9 o'clock tonight. And so some of you are going to be seeing this tomorrow, which will be today as far as you're concerned. But you get what I mean. I mean, when you look at this, if it weren't for me having been out on my horse for most of the morning, I wouldn't even be able to look at this. So I'll leave a timestamp so you'll know if you want to skip this bit before I start on the speech. But I have never seen a year so full of bluebells. Now, if you don't have bluebells where you live, let me tell you, bluebells are little bell-like flowers. They're more a purpley colour than a blue, really. You get them in white as well, which is interesting, and sometimes in a very pale violet colour. I don't know whether that's the age of the flower or not, but there you are. And they, 3 or 4 of them hang off the top of a very delicate stalk. And the stalk looks a lot like just another piece of grass. So it looks like, when you're looking at it from a distance, it looks like there's a purple cloud floating about 2 or 3 inches above the top of the grass. It's a most magical view. So just before we get on with Keir Starmer, just put yourself in a dark wood with the trees rising out of the dark earth and ferns draping in the shade and little primroses and daisies just dotting the ground here and there. And I think there's a plant called colt's foot. Well, whatever. There's pink, there's white, there's yellow, but tiny flowers. Spring flowers tend to be very small. And then above them or between them, at the bottom of this dark, shady area under these trees, this cloud of bluebells like a purple sea floating above the ground. It's a most magical sight. And if I didn't ride a horse, I'd never see it, and probably. And it's different when you're walking. When you're walking, you see it more clearly. But when I'm on my horse, I'm about 12 feet in the air. So I see everything from from more of a distance. So those bluebells are just like a sea that I'm walking through, or my horse is walking through. It's a most magical and beautiful sight. And yeah, I do have my problems with God, but I was actually praying while I was riding through the woods this morning, just thanking God for that sort of beauty. And then, all right, so that's enough of that. I'm afraid we're getting back to Keir Starmer now. All right, so let's start with this fellow. As I said, this is going to be somewhat chopped up. Oh, another thing, this microphone. I've had a couple of complaints that the sound was coming out too low. So I've moved the microphone. That's another reason why I'm a bit later than I should be. I tried resetting the microphone. It won't go any higher. It's a special microphone my son bought for me. It's called a Shure, and they were made for DJs, really shock jocks, really. And you see this. There's like a sort of can down here, and there's the microphone up here. Well, what appears to be the microphone, actually it isn't. All the sound collecting equipment is down at the bottom of this can here. And that's because the shock jocks would throw themselves around and they'd thump the table and they kept breaking the microphones. So Shaw came up with something that you could break the top bit, but the bottom bit's nice and well protected. And that's fine, except they did a lot of shouting. So these microphones are made with very low gain. And that's actually a bit of a problem. I'm not a shock jock. But it's a very good microphone, so you don't look a gift horse in the mouth like that, do you? Anyway, so I brought this mic closer to my face, and I'm hoping that this will help all of you guys who found that it was too quiet before. Right, and let me know if the sound's coming out better. All right, okay, back to politics. Let's listen to the Right Honourable Sir Keir Starmer. Right Honourable.
The election results last week were tough. Very tough. We lost some brilliant Labour representatives. That hurts. And it should hurt. I get it. I feel it.
He doesn't get it. Everything that he says after this is totally blind to what he should get. But yeah, he says he gets it. And I want you to notice the way he's delivering the lines. It's, I'm quite sure. Do you remember, some of you might remember the Biden slip-ups. I have some notes here. In July 2022, while delivering a speech on reproductive rights, Biden said, "It is noteworthy that the percentage of women who register to vote and cast a ballot is consistently higher than the percentage of men who do so." End of quote. Repeat the line. What he was doing, that was what he said. What he was doing was he was repeating the stage directions. He was just reading them out, which shows just how little understanding he had of what he was actually saying. Well, Starmer actually does understand what he's saying, sort of. He doesn't understand the situation. But if you notice the way he delivers the line, you can see he is reading out the stage instructions, not in that way, but in the underlining way. I'm sure there are, especially when he gets to the end of a bit, you know, he starts on a subject. When he gets to the end of a subject and delivers what I think he thinks is the punchline that'll really floor them, he gives an extra emphasis to it, like this, something like that. I'm not much of a mimic. And I think the whole thing is underlined in red. Also, and he's reading it out, underlined in red. And it happens all the time. That's his way of delivering. He has real trouble conveying emotions, or rather being sincere about emotions. So he's just reading out the instructions in the way he's been instructed to deliver the lines. Okay, so you'll watch this. I get it. I'm quite sure that was underlined. He doesn't talk naturally.
And I take responsibility. But it's not just about taking responsibility for the results. It's about taking responsibility to explain how, as a political and electoral force, we will be better and do better in the months and years ahead.
He uses the same words again and again. And I think this is because his script writers, or he himself, thinks that when you repeat the word, it's going to drive it into people's heads, and they're going to get that message sort of stuck in their heads and they're going to believe it. And he's using terms like better, improvement, those sorts of words. But actually, he doesn't really describe how he's going to be better or improve.
Because we are not just facing dangerous times, but dangerous opponents, very dangerous opponents.
And of course, he's trying to convince people that they're under threat. Of course, you can bring people together when you scare them. Come here, children, I'll take care of you. Dangerous times. We're not facing any more dangerous times than any other time in human existence, I'm afraid.
This hurts not just because Labour has done badly, but because if we don't...
Not just because Labour's done badly. So he's saying, because Labour's done badly, that's one of the elements in dangerous times.
Get this right, our country will go down a very dark path. So a very dark path. So if you're slipping away from the Labour Party, you are going down a dark path. I take responsibility for the results. I also take responsibility for delivering the change that we promised.
All right, he was always talking about change, and never quite certain what that change was, or whether that change would be for the good. For instance, if I changed this shirt for, a 1980s thing with big shoulders and a lot of sparkly stuff, would that be better?
Stronger and fairer Britain that we must build.
Oh, he uses the word fairer a lot. Stronger and fairer, but he doesn't say exactly how.
I take responsibility for navigating us through a world that is more...
Navigating, by the way. Now he's the captain of the ship. And these are all images that he's trying to put into your mind. You have to understand that this speech is an attempt to manipulate the listener. He's talking about, he's using lots of words, stronger, fairer, change, I'll navigate, all these there was a book written by a fellow who was, I don't remember his name or what the book was called, but it was all about how a fellow could manage to get a girl into bed. If you're just chatting to her in a bar and you want to take her home for a one-night stand or whatever. And his main idea was that you use certain words that would put her in the correct frame of mind. One of them was find a way to use the word penetrate, for instance. It's that sort of thing. It was a thoroughly slimy, nasty piece of work. But that's exactly what Keir Starmer is doing here, although politically, not sexually. 50% of the population are listening to this video. He wouldn't be interested in you anyway. You'll have to work out which of the 50% I'm talking about there.
More dangerous than at any time in my life.
Oh, you noticed the word dangerous turned up again.
And I take responsibility for not walking away.
Now, here, you see, you've got these words again. We're in danger. It's dangerous. And I'm responsible. I'm taking responsibility. I'm navigating. Can you see how this is manipulating the situation?
Plunging our country into chaos, as the Tories did time and again. Chaos that did lasting damage to this country. A Labour government...
Oh, yeah, the word chaos.
...would never be forgiven for inflicting that on our country again.
Oh, yeah, right. So we got to that underline, red underline. But you see what he's talking about? Danger, chaos, and then when he's talking about the Labour Party, navigate, fairness, you know, he's using all the weighted words. I'll just go back a little bit and you hear how he finishes that, and then everybody dutifully claps. But you'll see how he finishes that with a particular sort of emphasis, and that's definitely a red line under the words there.
Would never be forgiven for inflicting that on our country again.
I'm sure you heard that again. He actually dropped his voice and projected. And he does that every time when he gets to the end, because that's the cue for the clapping. And I think there are probably people in the audience who are waiting for that cue so they can clap and then start the audience clapping. And there's this stronger, fairer Britain. We're not stronger, we have hardly any army. As for fairer, well, you work out for yourself whether the laws... I've been discussing the rules and the laws that they've changed. Do they make life fairer for anybody? Because I don't think they do. And of course, the voters didn't think so either. Right, carry on.
I know that people are frustrated by the state of Britain, frustrated by politics, and some people frustrated with me. I know I have my...
Some people, like 95% of the country. I believe some of the Labour backbenchers are now rebelling. You know, I mean, he made this speech this morning, this morning, which is the morning of the 11th, and already by the afternoon there were some Labour people talking about removing him. Unfortunately, the Labour Party constitution makes things very difficult to oust a Prime Minister. The Conservatives are a lot more efficient about that sort of thing, sometimes to their own detriment. In my opinion, they shouldn't have got rid of Liz Truss. I think she could have dealt with all of this situation, but they got rid of her. But yeah, that's my opinion. Okay.
My doubters. And I know I need to prove them wrong, and I will. So let me start on a personal note. Like every Prime Minister, I've learned a lot in the first 2 years in the job.
I don't think he's learnt a single thing. I think he's learnt that people don't like him. I think he's learnt that his Chancellor of the Exchequer is a liar. I think he's learnt that he's got to navigate a situation that he doesn't really understand. But I don't think he's actually learnt anything constructive. Okay, that's my opinion.
In terms of the policy challenges that our country faces, incremental change won't cut it. On growth...
Okay, so what he said there, incremental change isn't enough. So people have got frustrated, which means the pace of change is too slow. And so he's preparing us for ramping up the speed.
Defence...
just a minute. But instead of saying the pace is too slow, he talks about incremental change, which sounds intellectual and sort of goes over the head of the oiks who, the simple people that he despises so roundly.
Europe, energy. We need a bigger response than we anticipated in 2024, because these are not ordinary times.
They're no worse than any other times. There are international problems. He really meant that. That came from the heart. These are not ordinary times. I could see he was really aching over that. But what's going on is that as a socialist, he expected everything to be, I don't know what, buttercups and rainbows or something. You know, if you're doing socialism, it should be reasonably plain sailing because everybody knows socialism is the best and they'll accept anything if it's in the name of socialism. And then he realises things are more complicated than that. I keep talking about Rachel Reeves closing down private schools, for instance. I think she thought she was doing something really edgy and socialist, and then the serious trouble. Serious social upheaval, the farmers' tax, you know, the other thing. It just seemed so easy before, and now it's a lot more complicated than that. And he suddenly realised it's not ordinary anymore. As a matter of fact, it is ordinary. It's just not ordinary in his simple mind.
This is a political challenge as it's a policy challenge. Delivery is, of course, essential, but it's not sufficient on its own to address the frustration that voters feel. We're battling Reform and the Greens, but at a deeper level, we're battling the despair on which they prey.
All right, so he's talking about the Reform and the Greens. Now you've got more loaded language. Reform and the Greens are preying on people. They're eating them. He talks a bit more about reform. The Greens are not preying on people. They are actually using a lot of Muslim anti-Semitism to fuel their momentum. And as a matter of fact, they didn't do that well. They did okay, but not as well as a lot of the pundits expected. And Reform, they are not preying on anyone. They are simply looking at the situation and coming out and talking about it, but that's not in his playbook, of course. So Reform and the Greens, they aren't just political opponents, they are predators. And he keeps up with that sort of image. He doesn't mention the Conservatives at all, by the way, as far as I remember. Of course, the Conservatives did do fantastically well. But Badenoch is coming out with things and saying things that resonate with people. So, yeah, I have great hopes for Kemi Badenoch. I'm not sure she can turn round the voting patterns altogether, but I think she is the best that the Conservatives can manage, and she's very good. He doesn't mention the Conservatives. He talks about Reform and the Greens. They are interlopers into this cosy political environment that he thought he was in, and they are predators, and he keeps that imagery up.
Despair that they exploit and amplify. And so analysis matters, but argument matters more. Evidence matters, but so too does emotion.
No, evidence matters. Evidence matters. Emotion tends to lead you way off the track. Yeah, there's the, what's it called? Little Red Riding Hood. You get this idea. She's sent with food to her sick grandmother, isn't she? And then she goes off the track, starts picking daisies or whatever, and then the wolf gets her, or sort of not gets her there, but later on. Because the track is, you might say, logic and evidence, the evidence that people walk there every day and have made a track. And the flowers are the emotion. Oh, that's interesting, because while I was riding, I was talking about looking at flowers while I was riding, wasn't I? But you see, I didn't go off the track. I stayed there. However beautiful those bluebells were, I stayed in a place where my horse wasn't going to put his foot into a hole and fall over, break a leg, or break my leg, or whatever. So, that fits in rather neatly, doesn't it? All right, evidence matters, but emotion matters more. Yeah, you just go off the track and pick your buttercups, Starmer.
Stories beat spreadsheets. People need hope. So we will face up to the big challenges. And we will make the big arguments, the Labour case, that only Labour values and Labour policies can ensure our country not only weathers these storms, but emerges stronger and fairer.
And weathers these storms, again, he's being a navigator here, isn't he? He's the captain of the ship. The ship is ploughing ahead and he will direct it through the storms. No, somebody has sat down with this script and has actually taken images and fitted them in. This is really this is real cut and paste stuff here. Either Starmer or Starmer and his scriptwriters, or just his scriptwriters, they came up with this idea: chaos, storms, and navigator and sensible. That's, you know, the two things that they're pushing the whole time. Are they saying how they're going to do it? No.
And the Labour case, that neither Nigel Farage nor Zach Polansky offers our country the serious progressive leadership that these times demand.
The serious progressive leadership. Progressive. You know what Douglas Murray said about progressive? He said, if you go to the doctor and he tells you have an illness and he says it's progressive, are you happy about that? Okay, and there's the throat voice as well. I'll go back a little bit.
Nigel Farage nor Zach Polansky offers our country the serious progressive leadership that these times demand. Of course, like every government, we've made mistakes. But we got the big political choices right. I mean, if we'd listened to the advice of other parties, right now we'd be stuck in a standoff with Iran, having been dragged into a war.
All the Americans were doing was asking for permission to use the airfields. We have been getting a free ride on the Iran issue. And listen, I'm not complaining. We don't have the army anyway.
That is not in our interest, and I will never do that. We have invested in our public services, in people, in the pride of Britain's communities. Difficult decisions funded that. But now, NHS waiting lists are coming down. Child poverty is coming down. Immigration is coming down. And we are
Immigration is coming down. I'm sure that's a lie. And I'm not so sure about child poverty either.
Building from the ground up.
Hang on, just a minute. Let's just listen to that again.
Did that. But now, NHS waiting lists are coming down. Child poverty is coming down. Immigration is coming down. And we are rebuilding from the ground up.
Okay, so everything's coming down and they're building from the ground up. I don't think he was really thinking about what he was saying there. Oh, talking about building from the ground up reminded me of that 24-storey tower they're building in Redbridge to house migrants. 24 floors of accommodation in one of the parts of Britain, especially of London, where there is most homelessness and the most lengthy times on the council housing waiting list. And they're building 24 stories for migrants. Yeah, they are building from the ground up.
And most of all, we stabilise the economy. The fundamentals are sound, and that matters.
Stabilise the economy. Well, I'm not an economist, but I have heard economists say that Rachel Reeves has practically wrecked the economy.
Because it puts us in a much better place to come out of the conflict in Iran stronger and fairer, and for living standards to...
Again, you see here, stronger and fairer. He keeps repeating that, but he doesn't say how that works. What I want to know is, what are you going to do about the migrants? He doesn't mention that once, by the way. How are you going to stabilise the economy? What plans are you going to make? How are you going to release the people or the sausages? Whatever. Some of you might not have caught that, so I will just remind you that when he was talking about the war between Israel and Gaza, he was making a speech at some Labour Party function or other, some dinner, and he said Hamas should release the sausages. Yeah, I'm serious. That's what he said. Okay, it was a slip of the tongue, but this is a fellow who actually doesn't seem to think about what he's saying. And so you get things like that happening.
Improve after 2 decades of stagnation.
As a matter of fact, I had no love for Rishi Sunak. I was really angry at the way he was put in place after the palace coup to do with Liz Truss. Not that I had a lot of love for Liz Truss either. However, she did gain the place and then found herself with a whole lot of a wall falling in on her, being pushed by a cabal of Conservative Party grandees. But Rishi Sunak apparently stabilised the British economy very well. He made a very good job of it, I have heard.
But that's not enough, clearly. No. For the British people, tired of a status quo that has failed them, change cannot come quickly enough.
I think the British people don't want change. They want things back to the way they were in 1997. I think a lot of people would say that. The only change they want is to take our legislation back to 97 and start again. His idea, but he's talking about change. Again, what sort of change? Fairer and stronger. Yeah.
And truth be told, I'm not sure that they believe that we care. I'm not sure they believe that we see their lives.
No, what most people see is that we are being governed by a lot of ideologues who can't see that far into the future. That's what we see. I don't care whether they care or not. I just care about whether the economy is working so I can live a reasonably comfortable life, go on a holiday every so often or whatever. But what they are doing is taxing people. We're all sitting around wondering when the next tax is going to hit us. I don't care whether they care or not.
That's tough to say when you come from a working class background like me.
Oh, bollocks. He came from a middle class background. That's what it was. His father owned a small factory. They weren't business tycoons, but they weren't exactly on the breadline either. And he tries to make out that he's, working class like everyone else. And then when he was asked, what is working class, by somebody in a television interview, I think before he was elected, he couldn't actually define it. Mind you, he couldn't define what a woman was either.
It's hard to hear that because I do know what it's like to struggle and to strive. But what I take...
everybody knows what it's like to struggle and strive. Even quite rich people have struggles and sleepless nights and worries about business and projections and salaries and industrial action or whatever it's called nowadays. Everybody struggles and strives. Being working class is not doesn't particularly bless you with that aspect of human life. Everybody does it. And he's trying to pretend he's a man of the people here, and he struggles and strives with them all.
Is that I've spent too much time talking about what I am doing for working people and not enough time talking about why or who I stand for. Because I can see how hard life has been during these decades of crisis. I can see that very clearly. My late brother Nick spent all his adult life going from one job to the next. The status quo did not work for him. My sister is a carer, working long hours on low pay, year after year after year. She didn't even get sick pay in the pandemic. The status quo did not work for her. For too long, we've ignored people like that. And there are millions of people in that boat. Millions of people.
Oh, we're back to the boat, by the way. Just remember that. His sister worked, she didn't even get sick pay during the pandemic or whatever. Do you know, there is no way any society is going to give everybody everything they need. I don't know whether his sister was badly treated or not. But there are going to be holes in the net all the time. I'm sorry for his sister and his brother, who I understand had problems, other sorts of problems. But that is not a way to run a country when you're thinking of situations like that. We need an army. We need an energy policy that actually gives us energy. In Britain, we pay the most for energy, I think, almost anywhere in the world. We don't need to have our pubs taxed out of existence. That's what we need. And then let us find our own way through. You see, what his system deals with, it stops people from doing things and then offers them help, instead of just letting them do things. Yeah, that's really what the problem is.
Who don't get the dignity, the respect, the chance that they deserve to go as far as their talent and effort should take them.
And they would if they weren't being taxed and legalised and legislated for all the time.
Millions of people held back because the status quo in this country does not work for them. I am fighting for them. We are fighting for them. I am their Prime Minister and this is their government.
Oh, yeah, you heard the voice again. Poor people who are struggling, they need his help to go forward. That is a particularly socialist idea. I remember Jeremy Corbyn saying only his party, that was the Labour Party when he was in charge of it, can lift up the people. And what is he going to do when they've been lifted up? Do they become the evil, fat capitalists after that? You know, it doesn't go anywhere, that thinking. Let people climb up on their own. Just remove the impediments that stop them from climbing.
Because I know whose side I'm on. I'm on the side of working people just like my sister. People who work harder and harder, but who worry about the cost of living. They're not asking for the world. They just want to do the best for their kids.
Why is the cost of living going up? Well, prices are going up. Why are prices going up? Because businesses are being more heavily taxed now. And they have to take on more obligations. There's more national insurance to pay. There's more severance pay. There's all sorts of problems sacking unsuitable workers. And they're all to do with laws made by this government. And I've made a couple of videos on the rental problems that this Labour Party have landed working people with. You'll have to look online for that. I can't give you the list of all of them. But within the past 3 weeks, I have made, I think, about 3 or maybe 4, I don't remember, videos about the problems involved in the new landlord laws, which are going to put the price of rentals up and bring the stock of rental property down. And I'm quite sure there are a lot of working people who are quite upset about that.
They want their town centres, the places they care about, to thrive, their public services to work, and people in power to see their problems. And right now...
And people in power to see their problems. You see, this is exactly the wrong way round. People in power to get their sticky little fingers off the businesses or whatever and just stand back and let them get on with it. Not go in there. You remember Ronald Reagan, the 9 most terrifying words in the English language? I think it was 9. I'm from the government. I'm here to help. Yeah?
They're worried sick. They turn on the TV. They see bombs falling. They go to the petrol station.
Right. They see bombs falling in another country. They don't see them falling here. So what's that? He's trying to paint a picture of a world in chaos. It's not chaos here in Britain. Well, it is in Birmingham, but fortunately, I'm not in Birmingham. Let's go back again.
They go to the petrol station, see prices rising, and they think...
Prices are rising because Iran is bombing Kuwait and Qatar and Saudi Arabia and Israel and anything, Turkey, Crete, no, Cyprus, anywhere. That's why I'm blockading an international waterway. That's got nothing to do with us. And he's not responsible for it. And saying that he is and he'll deal with it is a complete fiction. He is so not dealing with it, he wouldn't even let the people who are dealing with it land their aeroplanes in airfields for which they pay.
How is this happening to us again? They say, how can I be paying the price for a war thousands of miles away that I don't support, that Britain isn't involved in?
Britain is only too involved in. That's why we're paying more for our petrol. Because Iran is blackmailing the world. It's not just Britain, of course. And there's a problem with Russia as well, isn't there? Neither of which Britain has had much to do with. And he's acting as if we're victims that somehow he can sort out. No, he can't sort it out. And we should just consider ourselves lucky that we are not sending our young people out there to go and fight and be psychologically damaged or physically damaged or killed, trying to sort this horrible government out in Iran, this murderous, genocidal Nazi regime. We're not dealing with that. As I say, we've got a free ride. We should be just thanking God that paying a bit more for petrol is the only price we're paying for all of this.
And it's not a new feeling, is it? For 2 decades, our country has been buffeted by crisis after crisis. The 2008 financial crash, the Tory austerity that followed it, Brexit, COVID.
Okay, so here we are. Just listen to that. The financial crash, Brexit and COVID in the same bracket as a crisis. He didn't see Brexit as an expression of the British wish to be British, to live our own lives in our own country under our own control. No, that was a crisis just like COVID was. I'm not saying that the Conservatives handled the COVID thing well, but they weren't unusual. It was a sort of international hysteria, wasn't it? It was a lot worse in Australia and New Zealand. I really felt sorry for you poor guys out there. But okay, that was a crisis. Brexit? It was not a crisis. Theresa May handled it terribly. It was not a crisis, though. And he's bundling that together, like he's trying to put into our minds that Brexit was a terrible disaster. I think a lot of people might disagree with that. The only disaster was that it wasn't handled efficiently and done properly and completely. It still hasn't been done properly and completely.
Ukraine war, on and on it goes.
Yeah, but that's life, Starmer. That is what... You see, the world's a terrible place, but he can navigate us through it. No, the world is the world. That's what happens. These are things that happen in the world. They happen all the time. And Brexit wasn't a crisis.
And the response is always the same. A desperate attempt to get back to the status quo, a status quo that failed working people time and again. Our response this time must be different. A complete break. We must make this country stronger.
Stronger again. How?
Control of our economic security, our energy security, our defence security, and we must make this country fairer.
Right, so we've got to make ourselves stronger. We have to be energy secure. We have to be militarily secure. Not how we're going to do it. It just must happen. And it must be fair. That word, fair, again and again. No, I'm afraid life isn't fair. I'd like to be a 6-foot blonde with great legs. Unfortunately, I didn't get that privilege. Oh yeah, you just wait while people clap.
Strength through fairness. That is my compass in this world.
Did he just say strength through fairness?
And in the coming days, you will see those values writ large in the King's speech. And you will see hope, urgency, and exactly whose side we're on reflected in everything we say and everything we do. So let me give you 3 examples today, starting with British Steel. Because what we did in Scunthorpe last year is one of the proudest things we have done in government. That plant...
He nationalised British Steel. Why is our steel industry on the skids? Because of the price of fuel. Back to what I was saying before about the price of fuel. They've nationalised steel. When we had nationalised industries in this country in the 60s and 70s, they all failed. And they failed because the unions were part of the labour structure, and they just drained these industries dry. And now he's nationalising steel again. Well, yeah, maybe it had to be done. I don't know. But I don't think that that's an entirely healthy sign either.
Was hours away from closure. And that is thousands of jobs gone. An entire region decimated. Britain's security exposed. And so we acted. Parliament was in recess, but it didn't matter. As a united Labour Party, we passed emergency legislation and we took control.
You've got the eye, we took control. So now you're going to have politicians running the steel industry. Tell me, how well do you think that's going to work out? And again, he's talking about control, you know, navigating, weathering the storm, captain of the ship, or whatever he sees himself as.
And we must bring that same urgency to everything now, starting, appropriately enough, with Scunthorpe, because steel is the ultimate sovereign capability. Strong nations in a world like this need to make steel. That's why we're backing steel in Port Talbot and across the UK. But in Scunthorpe, we've been negotiating with the current owner, and a commercial sale has not been possible. And now a public interest test could be met. So I can announce that legislation will be brought forward this week to give the government powers, subject to that public interest test, to take full national ownership of British steel.
Now, did you hear that voice again? Oh, yes, I'm so strong. They are talking here about confiscating an industry from the present owners. Look, it may be that we needed to keep steel capability in Britain. I'm not going into any of that stuff. There might have been a case for making it somewhere else, or giving another steel company the chance to set up shop somewhere. There's all sorts of things that could have been done, but what they thought of doing and what they have done, according to his lights, they are going to simply expropriate the industry. Now, I suppose they'll give a financial reparations of some sort to the present owners. But how many businesses do you think will wish to set up in Britain, knowing that we have a government that if it decides that's important for it, will simply expropriate the business? Once it's been done once, it can be done again. And he thinks that shows how determined and strong he is.
Public ownership in the public interest. Urgent government on the side of working people.
Public ownership was a disaster for this country. In the 50s and 60s, there was a sort of experiment based on, communist ideas. Communism was quite the thing then. And they took a lot of industries into public ownership, and they all died the death. Because politicians can't run businesses. That's why they're in politics, mostly.
Making Britain stronger with the hope of industrial renewal. That is a Labour choice. Second example, Europe. And I'm sorry, but I need to take a bit of a detour on this, because I want to remind you what Nigel Farage said about Brexit. He said it would make us richer. Wrong. It made us poorer. He said it would reduce migration. Wrong. Migration went through the roof. He said it would make us more secure. Wrong again. It made us weaker. He took Britain for a ride.
Every single thing he's listed there is true. We are poorer. We do have higher migration, and we're fairly weak militarily. But that's nothing to do with Brexit. That's to do with the policies of a really weak Conservative government and now a really weak Labour government. Well, no, a Europhile Labour government.
Unlike the Tories, actually, who at least had to face up to it, he just fled the scene. And now...
He didn't flee the scene. He left because he thought he'd done the job, and then he came back because he saw that it wasn't being done, and that's most of the problem.
He'll talk about almost anything other than the consequences of the one policy he actually delivered.
All right, so what's going on here? He is slagging off Nigel Farage now. Not talking about his ideas, just slagging off Nigel Farage. But even worse, What he is saying to the British people is, your will, your vote, I'm going to reverse it. And I think a lot of people are going to hear this and think, that's not what they want. But he doesn't realise that. He is absolutely tone deaf. I don't know how anybody can be as tone deaf as he is. I don't see how that's possible. Well, it obviously is because, well, just look at him. Anyway, he's now going to go off on a riff of how terrible Nigel Farage is and what a disaster Brexit is and how he's going to take us back into the European Union one way or another.
Because he's not just a grifter, he is a chancer.
A grifter is a criminal, a con man, and a chancer. I don't know what you'd say, a spiv, a wide boy, I mean, you're whatever. So this is an opposition politician that he is getting at. So you see, he's set himself up as navigating us through the storm, and then he's also setting up Nigel Farage as the Goldberg. What was the name of that guy in 1984? The one you had the 4-minute hate over? It's Goldberg or something. Anyway, I've forgotten the name, but you know, the hate figure, and he's trying that here, and what he doesn't understand is it's not going to work. So it is merely demeaning, right? I mean, it works with that audience. It will work with some Labour acolytes. But most of the working class people that he says he's helping and listening to, they're going to listen to that, as I am, in absolute dumbstruck horror. Oh yeah, fucking serious.
And so at the next EU summit, I will set a new direction for Britain. The last government was defined by breaking our relationship with Europe. This Labour government will be defined by rebuilding our relationship with Europe, by putting Britain at the heart of Europe, so that we are stronger on the economy.
Britain at the heart of Europe was what's his name said? John Major. He kept saying that because he was trying to sell it to the British people. We were never at the heart of Europe. Britain has never, ever been at the heart of Europe. Britain has always been on the fringes of Europe. Always. It's part of our geography and it's part of our character. So that he's using John Major's old slogans, just like he's hauling in retired, semi-retired Labour politicians to act as some sort of stabilising influence. I still don't know why he's brought in Gordon Brown and Harriet Harman. I have no idea. He's just taking old stuff and dumping it into our laps. The European Union, Harriet Harman, Gordon Brown, and even John Major's speeches. And he thinks that people will think this is new, this is fresh, this is change. It's like somebody's gone into the attic and started hauling out grandma's old bloomers.
On trade, stronger on defence, you name it. Because standing shoulder to shoulder with the countries that most share our interests, our values, and our enemies. That is the right choice for Britain. That is the Labour choice.
Oh, you heard the voice again. That's the right place for Britain. That's the Labour choice. Yeah. OK. Well, we've got a lot in common with people in Australia and Canada and America as well. Trying to big up our relationship with the French and the Germans. Yeah, it's nice to be friends and it's nice to trade, but actually, historically, we haven't ever had that much in common with mainland Europe, except maybe for Holland and Portugal. That Portugal is, I think, the oldest international treaty Britain ever made. Portugal is a bit of an outlier in a way from the rest of Europe. It's quite similar in that respect.
And for our young people, also something more. Because Brexit snatched away their ability to work, to study, and to live easily in Europe. That's why I'm proud we restored the Erasmus scheme. But I want to go further. I want to make a better offer for our young people. Restore that hope, that freedom.
You know, our young people would have a lot more hope if they could get on the property ladder, if they could find jobs, and if they could make businesses without a lot of red tape. But again, it's this Labour thing. I'm going to lift you up. I'm not going to take my hands away and let you get on with it. No. Come here. I'm going to lift you up.
That sense of possibility. And so I want an ambitious youth experience scheme to be at the heart of our new arrangement with the EU, so that our young people can work and study and live in Europe.
Which most of them might prefer to do, the mess he's making of this country.
A symbol of a stronger relationship and a fairer future with our closest ally.
We've got fairer future again with our closest allies. France is not our closest ally. I mean, all power to the French. There's l'exception française, France first. Why not? If you're French, that's fine, that's your business. But don't give me that guff about your closest allies. We're not close allies, we're actually quite intense rivals, economically speaking. And that's fine, I'm not annoyed about that. That's the way the world is. Our closest allies should be the English-speaking nations because we understand each other more easily. He's throwing all that away.
That is the Labour choice.
Oh, there's the Labour choice again. He said that before. So he's now trying to get the idea that Labour is making all the right choices, you know, because Brexit was such a disaster, a horrible thing to do.
And third, the greatest hope. The hope that every parent has of a better future for their children.
Oh, and this is speaking... This is the man speaking who presided over a disastrous policy that ripped children out of schools, that they were in the middle of a school year. And he's talking about young people.
And I want parents to feel that that is shared by their government. Now, my parent, don't worry, I'm not going there. But they didn't have a lot of money.
A lot of people don't have a lot of money. That doesn't mean they're living bad lives. It just means they don't earn that much. I mean, we didn't have a lot of money either. Academics don't get paid that much.
And my mum was seriously ill for almost all of her life. But when they were in their later years, reflecting on what gave their life meaning, I could see that, as well as their hope in us, their kids, what comforted them was the idea that they had contributed to a Britain that was getting better for young people, that kids now had a better opportunity than they did. And so I have always been driven by the idea that every child should go as far as their talent or effort takes them. It's a beautiful idea.
And it's a beautiful idea that you shouldn't interfere with, Sir Keir.
Shared widely across this country. We tell ourselves stories about it, don't we? Stories, not unlike mine, about the working class kids who do make it. And I don't blame people for telling those stories. It's important to tell those stories. But it's not everyone, is it? So when I say every child should have the opportunity to go as far as their talent or effort takes them, I mean every child. I mean the kids who are growing up in poverty, the kids who have special educational needs, the kids who can't get a job, and the kids who are ignored, frankly.
A lot more kids can't get a job because of your increased national insurance taxes and different other taxes that are driving a lot of businesses out of business. But, you know, here he's... The Dao De Ching, which was a Chinese a book on governance by Lao Tzu, he said, trying to govern a large country is like trying to cook a small fish in a large pot. And what he meant was that it would just disintegrate and there'd be, you know, nobody would get anything. And that's the problem with Starmer's attitude to government. He has this idea that government can do everything. And they can bring people forward and they can make people happier. No, they've just got to stay away and let people get ahead on their own. But you can see his attitude. He believes that. He's wrong, though, so wrong.
Because society often only puts those who go to university on a pedestal. We don't really see anything else.
No. That is Tony Blair's idea. He wanted everyone to go to university. So he had to make university fees, which, as I've said in a previous video, probably meant that more people were excluded from university than actually went there. That was Tony Blair's idea. You don't need to go to university all the time, but he made it so that you can't get a job without that now. Even nurses, they don't need to go to university. All the nurses that I've met are just practical people who have learnt on the job and who do know that university is fine and dandy, but it's actually being there at the coalface that's important.
Success. And that is wrong. Deeply wrong. So we will go much further on our investment in apprenticeships, in technical excellence colleges, in special educational needs. We will make sure that every young person struggling to find a job will get a guaranteed offer of a job, training or workplace.
And that is going to be impossible. Absolutely impossible. With the way businesses are going out of business. You can't guarantee everybody a job. Well, that's communism, isn't it? They guaranteed everyone a job. They just didn't guarantee a salary to go with it.
And we will go much further with our Pride in Place programme. Back the millions of people who give their time and their effort to young people in their community. We will back them, not just with money, but with power. And we will make sure that kids whose talent lies with their hands, kids who go to college, kids ignored by the status quo, because politicians' kids don't go there, they will finally get the respect that they deserve in a stronger, fairer Britain.
Oh, there's the stronger, fairer Britain. Notice the throat again, the voice.
That is the Labour choice.
There's that voice. That's the Labour choice. Again, back to the Labour choice. Oh dear.
These are just a few examples, but they show the urgency and hope in our direction. They show the Labour values we will be guided for. And they show, frankly, the lessons that we will learn. Now, other parties will draw different lessons. In fact, they already are. They want more grievance politics, more division, more pointing at Britain's problems, looking not for solutions, but for someone to blame.
Now he's having a go at at the Reform again. He's trying to imply that they're Nazis, that they're, you know, far right. He keeps talking about them.
Now, that's fine if it's me, if it's politicians, that's the job. But increasingly, it's not. It's other people in this country. And I don't think that's British. That is not the decency.
Well, a lot of these other people aren't British, are they? That's part of the problem.
And respect that we are known for. But it's here. That politics is with us now.
Oh, no, now he's doing the, you know, the tragic tone of voice that, you know, we're really in trouble, back to awful people. He is the sweetness and light holding back the forces of darkness. Yeah, that's how he looks at it.
And you'll see it again on Saturday at a march designed to confront and intimidate.
Right, that's the Unite the Kingdom march, isn't it? I went on one last year. There I was with all sorts of people, all sorts of colours, all sorts of stations in life, you know, parents, grandparents, people in wheelchairs, bodybuilders or whatever. It was full of a cross-section of British society, and there was absolutely nothing dark about it at all. And he refers to this as, well, the very embodiment of evil, actually.
This diversity and this diverse country. That is why this Labour government will block far-right agitators from travel.
Right, so there he is, so proud of himself, he is going to stop people talking. Only certain people, though. The sort of people that Tommy Robinson might invite. He doesn't mind Hamas screaming anti-Semitic and anti-Western slogans at people in the streets of London. He doesn't mind imams saying anti-Western and anti-Semitic things in the mosques. He doesn't mind those Palestinian demonstrators driving through Golders Green saying rape their daughters to teach them a lesson. When British Labour Party supporters went to America to support the Biden campaign or the Harris campaign or the Clinton campaign, that was all right. That was perfectly fine. But somebody that he regards as right, no, shut them up. We can't, whatever happens, we can't hear from them. They must not be allowed to speak.
Travelling to Britain for that event, because we will not allow people to come to the UK to threaten our communities and spread hate on our streets.
Iranian agents in our streets, yeah, that's fine. But somebody who comes along with what he would regard as a right wing, that is pro-Western idea, no, we've got to shut them up. He is so proud of stopping free speech. It is just almost unbelievable. Almost unbelievable, because I don't put anything past this government anymore.
This is nothing less than a battle for the soul of our nation.
Right. I suppose that wraps it up, really. As I say, he is the sweetness and the light holding back the forces of darkness in the shape of Nigel Farage. Look, you know, I'm not a great supporter of Nigel Farage in as much as I don't trust him completely. But I'm afraid he's all I've got, all we've got against this sort of thing. At least he's a businessman and knows how to run a business. And Richard Tice knows how to run a business. They couldn't run a Welk stall, these guys.
And I want to be crystal clear about...
Oh, he wants to be crystal clear. I was waiting for that.
...how we will win it. because we cannot win as a weaker version of Reform or the Greens. We can only win as a stronger version of Labour, a mainstream party of power, not
This is 3 red lines, I think.
protest. And I also want to be really clear on this, because I will never stop fighting for the decent, respectful, diverse country that I love. I will never give up on the hope we can unlock in this country, the hope of renters for security in their home, of workers for fairness at work, of public services freed from austerity, the hope of European solidarity, of community pride, of the people who paint over the graffiti that is racist, a country taking control of its future, our spirit unchanged, our resolve unbroken, the hope of a country that can and will become a stronger, fairer Britain. That is the hope I'm fighting for. That is the hope we are fighting for. That is the Labour choice.
That is the Labour choice. That must be 4 red lines. And that's his speech. It's sort of ironic that this came up. Mandelson's fall may topple Starmer, said Adrian Woodridge. OK. Look, I mean, that last bit was full of all sorts of marvellous things, none of which he had actually outlined. The only thing he has actually outlined is they're going to nationalise steel and take us back into the European Union. And having done that, everything is going to be fairer, brighter, with more hope for the future. Jam tomorrow, if you know your Alice in Wonderland. Or was that Through the Looking Glass? That was Through the Looking Glass, I think.
Thank you very much.
Right, well, I was going to cut this, but I don't think I will. I mean, there's so much there. There were some adverts in the way there. I'll have to cut them out. But yeah, I'm just going to, I don't know how long this is going to be, but I just don't have the heart to cut it down. It's just an appalling list of cut and paste, cliches, slogans, and downright lies and insults of the other guys, implying that they are terrible, awful sinners, Nazis, dreadful people. That's not politics. That's mudslinging. That's student politics. That is the sort of thing I would expect from a student, somebody trying to become chairman of the student union, actually, now I come to think of it. All right, well, yeah, that's my analysis of Keir Starmer's attempt to save his political career and change Britain into being stronger and fairer or something. Okay, till next time. Oh, and I hope that the sound is better on this. You can help my channel by subscribing and clicking the notification bell. That's quite important. And by sharing if you're so inclined. Links to my other channels and to donation methods are in the description. But the best way you can help is simply by clicking like and notify. Thank you.